Welcome to an all-new Minecraft series in hardcore mode, where if I die once, that's it. I lose my world. Let's go! Hello there, I'm stuck in a tree. We'll start off by punching my way through this birch tree and down to the ground. First off, we need a crafting table and some wooden starting tools. An axe and a pickaxe are all we really need. Next, we need food and wool to make a bed. Oh, I can't kill this baby or his mom, but I can definitely kill this scary loner who plays by his own rules. And this chicken. And this chicken. Oh look, the baby sheep grew up. Choppy choppy. Just a few minutes in and we can already craft a bed and sleep to control time and the danger level. And here's a tiny little empty cave where we can get some cobblestone and some coal. Now I can upgrade my pickaxe to stone and mine this copper. With better tools and materials already just a few minutes into my game, I headed east and killed more wild animals along the way. Then I found a ravine-type cave with a cow stuck in it where I mined a bunch more copper and coal and spent my first night. In the morning, I cooked some breakfast and headed out. Continuing east, I immediately found an ocean. So I gathered more birch, crafted a boat, and started exploring the coastline, grabbing some sugarcane and heading northeast. When I spotted spruce trees further down the coast, I got excited and chopped down a few, mainly to get some saplings to take with me. It wasn't long before I was back in the boat exploring the coastline, and I collected some kelp floating freely in the water. I disembarked to chase some chickens, and then I continued east through the forest and found some pretty flowers and a really weird-looking mountain. But there was exposed iron on the side of that mountain, so I started trying to figure out how I was going to climb that mountain to grab that stuff when suddenly I saw a building in the distance. So I made a mental note to come back for the iron, and then I never did, because that building I spotted was part of a full plains village. The place was complete with kitties and a pool of lava that looked dangerous but could come in handy. Some of the villagers were very professional and ready to trade, whereas others were not so friendly. But even though there were hay bales stacked everywhere for the taking, there wasn't a single loot chest in anyone's house. The roads were bad and there were unnecessary caves, and some houses were positioned in really weird places. But it had potential, being right on a major river. So in this hardcore world, I'm going to remodel this entire village. I established a little camp on the edge of town and grew my own trees for wood, crafted up some fence gates, and penned some cows to breed for plenty of beef and leather. Then I penned up some sheep, for wool mainly, and built another pen for chickens. But when I started looking around for chickens, I couldn't find a single one. Did they seriously just not spawn in the plains biome? Eventually I gave up and tore down the pen. I started exploring and mining in the little caves in the area and also initiated some ad hoc terraforming projects. I found some raw iron and smelted it into ingots and made myself an iron shovel for the terraforming. But I was reminded that I needed to get a villager breeder and iron farm going since the other villies would start disappearing or dying soon. So I terraformed an area for the farm and started outlining in cobble. Then I crafted up the stuff I needed, including a bucket and a shield for protection. Good thing, because when I was almost done setting up my farmland in the breeder, a creeper suddenly appeared and blew up. I recovered from this setback quickly, and before long a villager walked right inside and claimed the composter workstation. I had to lead the second villager into the breeder by moving his workstation around, but then I had no crop for them to share except wheat, which doesn't work all that well in a breeder. So it was time to start staying up overnight to try and kill zombies and get one of them to drop some kind of vegetable. The iron golems helped, but morning came and the mobs hadn't dropped me any veggies. But the next night, the zombies I killed were more generous, dropping things like gold boots. And then a whole horde tried to attack my villager breeder, but I fended them off, quite easily I may say, and without armor even. When I was done, I looked at my inventory and found one nice shiny potato. Let's plant this potato and bone meal it to make as many as we can. Okay, now the breeding should start a little sooner. Meanwhile, I continued work on the breeder by digging a drop chamber with top half slabs that the villagers are supposed to glitch through. I'm using a new recent design by Ray's Works, and it was pretty easy to set up. With the breeder construction complete, I started working on the iron farm because by this time there were only 3 or 4 villagers left, and any output from the breeder was going to take a while. So I followed a tutorial by Ian X04 and decided the best place to build it was the center of the village. But this house was in the way, so I tore it down. I then stole all the beds in the village and used them to lure the villagers into the farm, which was easy since they were hanging around that area anyway. Then I waited for night and tried to bait a horde of zombies over to the iron farm, but the iron golems were on it, man. They totally wrecked the entire swarm. I had to take matters in my own hand and pillared up 4 blocks and took out the golem closest to the farm. Then I was finally able to lure a zombie into the farm, but the sun was coming up, so he burned up right under the trapdoors. So the next day I dug out the spawning pit and even set up a lava trap to kill the golems more efficiently. Then I waited for night and an iron golem volunteered to test my farm. That night I got a zombie into the farm easily and the farm started working, but the golems were spawning in the wrong place, so I had to do some pretty fast terraforming to fix it. So now that I have an unlimited supply of iron, I can finally craft iron armor and put it on. Oh wait, I'm using the invisible armor resource pack. But now that I have unlimited iron tools, I can now farm all these spruce and oak trees and start planning my remodel of this village. My villager breeder is finally working. Look at these little guys. My farm spawned this little cat too. I'm gonna feed him and tame him and make him my friend. Yay! I'm going to call him Cocoa Pebbles. Already took over my bed just like a lazy house cat. Whoa, my first villager just grew up. Oh, he popped right out. I've added some extra blocks around the chamber in the hopes of preventing more pop-outs. And that wraps up the first 25 days or so in my new Minecraft hardcore world. So I've been thinking a lot about this idea of mine to go ahead and remodel this village. And the more I think about it, the more I think it is the perfect idea for a Minecraft hardcore series. Because in the past, in my Minecraft hardcore series, I spent a lot of time outside of hardcore in a creative world, designing really cool structures to use in my world, only then to die in my Minecraft hardcore world and lose all those builds. By keeping it simple and just remodeling a village for my first project here in my hardcore world, I think that I will be a lot more satisfied if I die and I haven't lost a whole lot of design work. The second thing I've been thinking about is the fact that this village is just really in the wrong place. I mean, look at how this house is way up on this hill. It's like difficult for the villagers to get to, as I see that mason over there easily getting into his house. But at the same time, I just, for my building aesthetics, I just think it's in the wrong place. And I think that if we're going to build a real city here, it's going to be here in this flat area by the river. This river will obviously become like a major trade route in this world. And so it would be very important to anyone who's thinking about settling here to build closer to this river. So this mason's house here on like basically the outskirts of the village imprint is going to become the corner of the new village, which is now going to stretch over to there. And I am going to one by one tear down the houses that are in this village and rebuild them in this area and then remodel them. And we're going to start off with this mason's shop here. It really is just a shop because there's no place to sleep in here. It's just kind of a place to work. So I'm going to remodel this mason's house so that it is now facing the river over there. So we're going to turn it 180 to face the other direction. And this entire house area is basically going to become the front porch of the new structure, which will not only allow the masons to work here, but to live here in a single structure. I'm aware that we have a second mason's house up there on that hill, and I think I'm going to relocate that over to someplace close to the river over there, because why wouldn't there be two masons' houses in one village? I mean, a little healthy competition never killed anyone, right? Okay, guys, what do you think? So right out here, you'll see I have some colored sheep tied up. I dyed these sheep gray, light gray and yellow in order to make all the carpets I need. And then right here on the porch, we actually have the tools needed to start being a mason. We got our mason's, what is this? Stonecutter table here. And then we actually have the clay and the terracotta from inside put back here on the porch, ready to sell to customers. Another little chest over here for all the tools. And inside, we have some nice humble decorations, very cozy looking. And then upstairs here is the nice and cozy and brightly lit little bedroom. It looks brightly lit because we put yellow banners over everything, and that's of course why I needed the yellow sheep. So I don't think this is going to be the only workspace. I actually want to put a yard on the side of the house here, and as you can see, I put a couple of furnaces on the backside here, and of course I want to have stacks of stones that have been cut all around the area. But the first thing I want to do, I want to go ahead and rebuild two houses that I tore down in this area, and I want to have them in a line here. And then I'll be able to figure out the exact size of the yard, and I'll also be able to figure out how to decorate those two houses. I started by extending the road in front of the mason's house and further out to help me determine where to rebuild the houses. Then I spruced up the path by lining it with coarse dirt. Then I rebuilt the villager houses exactly as they previously stood elsewhere in the village except for the window panes. I began the remodel with the sole purpose of leaving these buildings as something that could be believably built by a villager, but with better taste in block choice. I incorporated some spruce into the builds for color variants, but I didn't go overboard because I still want this to look like a plains village built mainly of oak wood and stone. Speaking of stone, I mixed andesite into the build to break up the cobble and better texture the build. While working on the back, I decided to add a back door to the small stone house, and then I would add a nice garden to the back. And it was while I was thinking about how big or small to make this garden that I decided to incorporate the second house into the property of the first house as a shack. It was kind of a cramped little place anyway and would be much better off serving as a storage shed for the owner of the first house. So I turned the entire structure to face away from the road, opened up the back, and started filling it with double chests. After staring at it some more, I decided the roof was all wrong and tore the entire thing off and rebuilt it at a 90-degree angle. It looked much more natural this way, to me at least. Then after gathering some fish with the hands-on approach and feeding Mr. Cocoa Pebbles, I set about detailing my new storage shed with barrels at the corners and by incorporating a few planks and slabs into the roof to make it look a little wonky and rustic. With the structures done, I began working on the yard between, starting by encircling it in spruce fences and building a wall between made out of mossy cobblestone and various tree leaves. This was a very creative process for me, and I kind of jumped back and forth between this house and the yard next to the Masons next door. Mr. Cocoa Pebbles stuck with me while I did this, including when I went to the iron farm to make bone meal for plants and trees. While I was doing that, he somehow fell into the farm and burned himself up in the lava. Rest in peace, Mr. Cocoa Pebbles. I felt so bad. I even walked back to work with my head down in shame, feeling all alone. But I dedicated my efforts to the memory of Mr. Cocoa Pebbles to make this yard the best I possibly could with a small potato farm and a wheat farm, lots of ground texturing, and I experimented with leaves as bushes all around. I stayed up late working and found out that the yard served as the perfect protection against mobs. One of the final touches was trying to grow a large oak tree behind the yard using fence posts to force the height. It took a lot of bone meal, but I finally grew a legendary tree behind this house. After mostly finishing the yard, I became momentarily obsessed with this tiny pond at the end of the road and expanded it into a proper fishing pond with a rounder shape and better texturing all around and within it. And that brings us to today, day 80 in my hardcore world. So let's do a quick walk around of everything. Here is how the pond turned out. I added some more spruce fence posts around it, and I also bone mealed and created some seaweed in the middle of it. And if I get down in here, maybe you can see a little bit better, but yeah, I've done a whole bunch of gravel and different rock types in the pond. It's really coming together nicely. And then a few extra textures around the Mason's house, especially this side yard where they could conceivably do all their work. They've already got stacks of andesite, granite, and bricks already stacking up there. And yeah, I love this table. So yeah, we actually have two stonecutters here. So we should be able to have two masons living here. And then here's our first villager's house. This is how it ended up. So yes, if you go inside here, obviously I should put some loot inside the chest here maybe, because as an adventurer you would discover loot in here. And there's storage overhead, making use of the area above and also putting a skylight up there. I thought that was a pretty cool touch. And then out to the backyard here, we actually have a path that goes around the side here and a little fence that I'm going to go ahead and close up just in case we come back here at night. But yes, this is looking very good, very well decorated. I love this quite a bit, and I love the tall tree behind it. So what do you think of my approach to this Minecraft Hardcore series? If you enjoy it, please leave me a comment down below and be sure to click like on it. And I'll see you in the next episode as I continue building out this village all the way down to the river.